What if I told you that the daily visualization of losing everything you hold dear, your job, your home, even your loved ones, is the fastest path to happiness? This assertion sounds like madness. It contradicts the entire modern positive thinking industry, which sells you affirmations and teaches you to avoid negative thoughts at all costs. But ancient Stoics like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius were not detached philosophers. They were practical psychologists who developed a precise protocol for deciphering the human mind. This isn't just philosophy. It's a technology for the mind, whose effectiveness is only now, 2,000 years later, being confirmed by neuroscience. Seneca, an advisor to Emperor Nero, practiced a rehearsal of poverty, even though he possessed a fortune equivalent to several $billion today. This protocol allows you not to suppress anxiety, but to redirect its energy, transforming it into a source of invulnerability. In this video, we will unveil this process step by step, day by day. The first key to this technology is understanding why your brain is inherently programmed for unhappiness. Why do residents of the wealthiest and safest countries suffer from anxiety disorders significantly more often than people in much less comfortable conditions, according to the World Health Organization? This is the paradox of comfort. The safer life becomes, the more fears the mind generates. Some mechanism atrophies our psychological immunity. And a second question: how do you explain the fact that the happiness levels of lottery winners return to their baseline within just 3 to 6 months? That's faster than the average season of a popular TV series. Why is our brain so effectively programmed to neutralize the joy from our most desired achievements? You constantly feel the work of these two mechanisms: a background anxiety without visible cause, and an emptiness after achieving a long-awaited goal. We will provide answers to both these questions in this video. They are key to understanding the Stoic method, which corrects two fundamental bugs in our psyche. This method stands in opposition to the culture of toxic positivity, with its good vibes only slogans, its guilt over natural negative emotions, and the constant pressure to be happy. It's like trying to heal a deep wound by simply sticking a smiling sticker on it. Over the next 7 days, or 7 sections of this video, you will receive an antidote. This isn't a set of tips, but a complete operating system for your mind. It installs over your old, ineffective anxiety programs. This system doesn't fight negative thoughts. It uses them as raw material, as fuel for two things: deep gratitude for what you have now, and an unshakable calm in the face of the future. It works like a controlled burn in a forest. Firefighters intentionally burn a small area to prevent a catastrophic wildfire. The Stoics similarly burned small fears to protect themselves from all-consuming anxiety. We will move from uselessly fighting anxiety to using it as the most powerful tool for achieving inner peace. Your time is valuable, and we respect that. So, here is the precise route for your 7-day sprint to invulnerability. This is not entertainment, but training. In just 6 minutes, we will break down Seneca's main tool, premeditatio malorum. You will see how he used it to overcome the fear of exile and death, despite being one of Rome's wealthiest men. In 11 minutes, you will learn about hedonic adaptation, an invisible psychological trap that nullifies the joy of all your achievements, and how the Stoics learned to disarm it. And in 18 minutes, we will see how modern cognitive behavioral therapy, without even realizing it, has caught up with ancient wisdom, confirming every step of this ancient protocol. You will understand why it is so effective from a neurobiological perspective. So, these are 3 key points on the map of your transformation. Let's begin day 1. The most frequent command you give your brain, "Don't worry," works in precisely the opposite way. This is not just an observation. It's a fundamental flaw in our relationship with anxiety. At first glance, the reason is simple. Your amygdala, the ancient fear center, reacts to threats by initiating the fight or flight protocol. This saved our ancestors from predators. But if it's that simple, why does our psychological immunity atrophy precisely when we are safe? Deprived of real threats, the brain starts inventing them. A deadline, an awkward conversation, a social media post. And when you fight these thoughts, you only confirm to your brain that the threat is real. It's like raising a child in a sterile environment and then being surprised when they get sick from the slightest draft. But what if you could give your brain a simulation of a threat, but on your terms? Emperor Marcus Aurelius, managing Rome during a plague that claimed up to 5 million lives, did not try to escape fear. He dissected it. In his diary, he didn't write affirmations. He asked questions. What's the worst that can happen? Can I influence it? If not, why am I expending mental energy on it? This approach is directly opposed by the culture of toxic positivity. Its good vibes only slogans offer escape, not analysis. This escape creates guilt over natural fear, exacerbating anxiety. Aurelius faced reality. We try to run from our own shadow, and the faster you run, the more clearly it pursues you. The first step to a solution is to stop running and start rehearsing. Why does one criticism outweigh 100 compliments? Why does the mind so easily believe in worst-case scenarios? The simple explanation: negative bias. For our ancestors, missing a tiger in the bushes was deadly, but missing a berry was not. The brain defaults to seeking danger. But this theory crumbles under the weight of one number. A University of Pennsylvania study showed that 85% of what we worry about never happens. This isn't just a bias, it's a system generating a colossal amount of false alarms. You're running on outdated software like Windows 95 in the modern world. It's not your fault. The Stoics didn't try to remove this software. They wrote a patch for it. The name of this patch is premeditatio malorum. So, on this first day we conducted a diagnosis. First, in a safe world, your brain gets bored and invents threats. Second, attempting to suppress these thoughts with struggle or positivity only amplifies them. Third, this is not a personal defect, but a feature of our evolutionary software. The diagnosis is made. Now we are ready to move on to treatment. We are ready for the first tool from the Stoic arsenal. This is a method that doesn't fight negative bias, but redirects it into a constructive channel. It turns this bug in our brain into its main feature. On day 2, we will explore Seneca's primary tool and learn how to be happy pessimists. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" At first glance, this might seem like hypocrisy, but Seneca was not advocating asceticism. He was proposing an exercise. This wasn't just a thought, but a physical practice. He slept on a hard floor and ate stale bread. This wasn't masochism. It was a conscious inoculation against the fear of poverty that paralyzed the Roman elite. He did this after already enduring 8 years of exile. The goal was singular, to ask himself at the end, "Is this all I was so afraid of? I can bear this." This experience brought freedom, and this inoculation works not only with the fear of poverty, it works with everything. Why can mentally replaying the worst-case scenario be calming rather than inducing panic? After all, the brain is already occupied with it. The difference lies in one word: control. Passive anxiety asks an unanswered question. Oh no, what if this happens? The active practice of the Stoics sets a task. Okay, this has happened. What is my first step? The focus shifts from emotion to a plan. This method is today called desensitization. Repeated, controlled exposure to a stimulus reduces the reaction to it. It's like watching a horror movie for the 10th time. You know all the jump scares, they no longer frighten you. In anxiety, you are a victim. In the practice of premeditatio malorum, you are the director who can say, "cut" at any moment. By practicing intentional poverty, the Stoics discovered a side effect. After a night on a cold floor, their ordinary bed seemed incredibly luxurious. Simple food became a feast. The practice not only prepared them for the worst, it brought back joy from the simple things. This was a double blow to anxiety. You simultaneously reduce fear of the future and exponentially increase happiness in the present. You treat the illness and get a superpower as a bonus. The feeling of gratitude activates dopamine and serotonin in the brain, the same neurotransmitters as antidepressants. This is precisely why it is not pessimism, but a tool for happiness. So, on day 2, we understood that premeditatio malorum is not pessimism, but a controlled psychological training. It works on the principle of desensitization, and it provides a double effect. It reduces fear of the future and radically increases joy in the present. Now that we understand what it is and why it works, we move on to the main question: how to do it. On day 3, we transition from theory to practice. I will give you a simple, step-by-step protocol for your first session of negative visualization, which you can apply in just a few minutes. It will teach you to use your imagination as a mental gym. How do you correctly visualize misfortune to achieve a therapeutic effect rather than a panic attack? There's a fine line between useful training and self-torment. So, step 1. Choose the right target. Don't start with losing loved ones, but with a small, reversible inconvenience: a lost wallet, being late for an important meeting, a broken phone. But merely thinking about it isn't enough. Your brain will dismiss it. You must engage at least 3 of your 5 senses. Imagine reaching into your pocket and it's not there. Feel a cold stab in your stomach. Hear the sound of your accelerated breathing. What specific inconveniences would this create right now? And a crucial safety rule: always end the exercise by consciously returning to reality. Say aloud, "This was just a drill. My phone is right here." And feel a wave of relief. This step reduces fear, but the next one gives you real control. After 30 seconds of immersing yourself in the sensory details of the loss, you immediately move to the second stage. This is the bridge from panic to solution. Give your brain a clear task. Okay, this has happened. What are my next 3 actions? Your phone is lost. Action 1. I will use a computer to track its geolocation. Action 2. I will call the operator and block the SIM card. Action 3. I will change passwords for banking apps. The brain cannot simultaneously be in panic mode, where the amygdala is active, and in planning mode, where the prefrontal cortex is active. By forcing yourself to make a plan, you literally switch off the panic. This mental shift works like a railway switch. You don't stop the train of thoughts, but consciously reroute it from the tracks of anxiety to the tracks of constructive planning. You've prepared for immediate actions, but the last step prepares you for long-term consequences. The third step is aimed at catastrophic thinking, which whispers, "If this happens, my life will be over." The task: imagine yourself a week or a month after the loss. A week has passed. I bought a new, inexpensive device. I restored most contacts from the cloud. Yes, it was unpleasant and cost money, but I managed. Life goes on. This step teaches the brain a key quality: adaptability. You show it in advance that most problems that seem like the end of the world in the moment are actually just temporary inconveniences. This builds deep self-confidence. So, the protocol. First, detailed visualization. Second, an action plan. Third, visualization of adaptation. The entire procedure takes no more than 5 minutes. And science confirms, with the 15% of real problems that do occur, people cope significantly better than they expected. Knowledge without action is useless. Right now, you have the opportunity to turn this information into a real skill. I ask you to pause this video for exactly 1 minute. Choose one minor inconvenience that worries you. Being late for work, spilling coffee on your clothes, and mentally go through the 3 steps we just discussed. 20 seconds to feel it in detail, 20 seconds to make an action plan, 20 seconds to imagine you've coped. This is your first push-up for psychological immunity. It doesn't matter how perfect it is, what matters is that it's done. As you do this, you might not notice how you're fighting one of the most powerful psychological laws that condemns us to eternal dissatisfaction. You just did an exercise to appreciate what you have, but your brain has already begun the process of devaluation. On day 4, we will uncover this mechanism. Why are lottery winners, who received millions, no happier after just 3 months than they were before winning? This fact seems absurd, but it's not an exception. It's an iron law of psychology called hedonic adaptation. Imagine your happiness level as a thermostat set to a specific temperature. Any vivid event, good or bad, is like an open window. The brain immediately turns on the heating or air conditioning to return the temperature to its usual setting. You buy a new car, and a month later, it's just a car. You get a promotion, and 6 months later, it's just a job. Any attempt to build long-term happiness on external acquisitions is like pouring water into a leaky bucket. But the Stoics found a way to hack this mechanism. They learned to reset their internal thermostat at will. We have already explored the tool for this hack: negative visualization. If hedonic adaptation is getting used to the good, then premeditatio malorum is the practice of conscious unlearning. You've grown accustomed to your health. It has become background noise, invisible and unfelt. But if you spend 5 minutes vividly imagining its loss, and then return to reality where everything is fine, you will experience a sharp, almost painful wave of gratitude. You have momentarily jumped off the hedonic treadmill. This is the reset. The Stoics didn't wait for real tragedy to begin appreciating life. They created its simulation to achieve the same effect without actual losses. Just 5 minutes of such practice a week yields more gratitude than hours of positive affirmations. And the most powerful person in the world used this mechanism in its most uncompromising form. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal diary, which was not intended for publication, "When you kiss your child, remind yourself that they are mortal. Tomorrow, they may be gone." For modern culture, obsessed with positivity, this thought sounds monstrous. But its purpose was not to become callous. Its purpose was not to become blind. Aurelius, like no other, understood how easy it is to take loved ones for granted. This daily reminder of life's fragility was his personal weapon against hedonic adaptation. It forced him to cherish every moment spent with his family, here and now. This is not pessimism, it is the highest form of mindfulness, born from a sober view of reality. So, on day 4, we uncovered hedonic adaptation, the treadmill that condemns us to perpetual dissatisfaction. And we understood that negative visualization is not only a vaccine against fear, but also a powerful tool for resetting our ability to appreciate what we have. But we've talked about things we fear losing. What about anxiety over things completely beyond our control? Politics, the economy, other people's opinions. On day 5, the Stoics will give us the sharpest tool in their arsenal, a mental filter that, with one question, cuts out up to 85% of all our anxieties. In 3 minutes, you will receive a tool that psychologists today consider the foundation of all cognitive behavioral therapy. Epictetus, a philosopher who was once a slave, formulated it this way: "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things." This is an ancient answer to a modern problem. It seems simple: change your thinking. But this idea crumbles under the weight of one number. 85% of what we worry about never happens. Of the remaining 15%, in the vast majority of cases, people coped with the situation much better than they expected. The problem isn't the content of our thoughts. The problem is that we spend 85% of our mental energy on absolute fictions. Your anxiety muscle is both overtrained and atrophied. It's running idly. It's like a fire alarm that reacts not to fire, but to a lit toaster. The Stoics created the simplest filter to separate real fire from burnt toast. This filter is called the dichotomy of control. Its logic is surgically simple. Everything in the world is divided into 2 baskets. In the first, what we control 100%, our thoughts, judgments, decisions, and actions. In the second, everything else, the weather, the economy, the past, other people's opinions. At first glance, this is obvious, but 99% of people, intellectually understanding this principle, act in the exact opposite way 99% of the time. They invest all their energy in trying to control the second basket. Your last strong worry, in which of the 2 baskets was it located? Stoicism is not a philosophy of passivity. It is a system of maximum efficiency. It works like a kitchen sieve. The question, "Is this in my power?" instantly separates the nourishing flour of your actions from the useless stones of external events. How can one question, asked of yourself, instantly lower cortisol levels? Take the main thing that worries you right now. For example, "I'm afraid I won't get this job." Now ask the key question: is the outcome, getting the job, completely within my power? The answer is no. But the power is not in this answer. It's in the next step, shifting 100% of your attention to what is in the first basket. The focus shifts from, "I'm afraid I won't get the job," to, "I can perfectly prepare for the interview, research the company, and rehearse my answers." You stop trying to control the wind and instead concentrate on adjusting your sails. This is a shift from the question, "What if something bad happens?" to, "What can I do right now?" From victim to author. Now we have 2 tools. Negative visualization teaches us to appreciate what we have, working with the present. The dichotomy of control teaches us to focus energy on what we can change, working with the future. But this is not just a shield, it is also a sword. By cutting out 85% of useless anxieties, you don't just find peace. You free up an enormous amount of mental energy that you previously spent ruminating on fictions. It's as if you gained 3 to 4 additional hours of focused time every day. Stoicism is not about feeling less, but about doing more. Seneca was one of Rome's wealthiest men, not despite but because of these practices. But it turns out that they literally restructure the physical composition of our brain. On day 6, we will see how. Can the brain be pumped up like a muscle? This question lies at the intersection of philosophy and neurobiology. Stoic practices seem like simple psychological exercises that change mood in the moment. But this is an illusion. The picture changes when we view it through the prism of neuroplasticity. The brain is not a static organ. Every thought, every experience strengthens specific neural pathways. Constant worry is a training that makes the brain a professional at finding threats. Regular practice of gratitude through loss makes the brain a professional at finding value. It's like carving a new path in a forest. With each pass, the path becomes clearer. Recall the paradox we posed at the very beginning. Why do the wealthiest and safest nations lead in anxiety disorders? The superficial explanation is the pressure of consumer society, social media, information overload. But the problem is not what they have, but what they lack: real difficulties. The absence of a need to regularly overcome discomfort atrophies our psychological immunity. Anxiety in a comfortable society is an autoimmune disease. When the immune system has no external enemies, it begins to attack its own body. Similarly, the brain, without real problems, attacks itself with anxiety. Stoicism is a vaccine of controlled doses of imagined losses that keeps this immunity toned. How could ancient texts, written by the light of an oil lamp, describe processes that we only observed with the invention of the tomograph? The simple explanation: the Stoics were very observant. They spoke of virtue without knowing about neurotransmitters. But reality proved to be more precise. Studies of gratitude practices show a decrease in cortisol levels. Studies of cognitive reappraisal, analogous to the dichotomy of control, show a decrease in activity in the amygdala, the fear center, and an increase in the prefrontal cortex, the control center. If we could put Seneca in a modern tomograph, we would see exactly the changes on the screen that are the goal of psychotherapy today. Just 8 weeks of such practice increased the density of gray matter in the prefrontal cortex. Over 6 days, we didn't just learn a set of techniques, we assembled a system. Each previous step was a foundation for the next. You cannot effectively cut out the anxieties of day 5 without understanding the trap of hedonism from day 4. You cannot understand that trap without learning to appreciate the present through loss visualization from day 3. This is not a buffet where you can choose one dish. It's a recipe where every ingredient and the order of operations are important. We've assembled an engine according to instructions, and now it's ready to run at full power. We've built a system that works, but we don't yet know its true name. On day 7, we will reveal what this system is called in the 21st century and why people pay hundreds of dollars an hour for it today. This system is called cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, the most effective and scientifically proven method for treating anxiety, for which people today pay hundreds of dollars an hour. Its axiom, formulated in the 1960s, states, "It's not events that cause emotions, but our thoughts about them." But 2,000 years before that, the philosopher-slave Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things." This is not just similar, it is one and the same. Negative visualization is exposure therapy in imagination. The dichotomy of control is cognitive restructuring. Seneca's letters were the first historical sessions of CBT. The Stoics didn't just anticipate science, they created its prototype, which you can use for free. But to ensure it works, its effect must be measured. How do you digitize calm? You cannot manage what you do not measure. It's like trying to lose weight without scales. So, step 1, right now, write down the 3 main things that worry you. Step 2, next to each, assign a rating from 1 to 10, where 10 is maximum anxiety. This simple system transforms your vague feelings into concrete data. This is your mental thermometer, showing you when you're just heating water and when it's actually boiling. You've just established a baseline. In 7 days, we will step onto these mental scales again. But the real changes will not happen on paper. Problems will not disappear. Traffic jams, criticism from your boss, economic news, all of this will remain. What will change is the space between the event and your reaction. Instead of an instant surge of anger, You will have 2 or 3 seconds to choose your response. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Reaction before, honking, swearing, a ruined mood for an hour. Reaction after, a deep breath, applying the dichotomy of control. This is beyond my power. And 10 seconds later, you've already forgotten about the incident. You gain not invulnerability, but freedom of choice. These 2 or 3 conscious seconds are all that separate the slavery of automatic reaction from freedom. Over 7 days, we didn't just learn facts, we changed your mental habits. Each step was part of installing this new operating system. We didn't just give you a fish in the form of advice, or a fishing rod in the form of a technique. We taught you to be a fisherman who decides where and how to fish. You have transitioned from a patient with symptoms to an engineer of your own psyche, equipped with a complete set of tools and instructions. In 30 seconds, we will transform 7 individual lessons into a single daily protocol that you can use for the rest of your life. Up to this point, we've been downloading individual files. Now, we're launching the installer. The goal: to completely remove the old, energy-intensive anxiety operating system and replace it with the fast and efficient Stoicism OS. Day 1, diagnosis, was the system scanner that found the main inherent bug. Your brain, by default, spends up to 30% of its metabolic energy processing non-existent threats. Day 2, premeditatio malorum, is the installation file itself, with the key antivirus patch. It doesn't delete negative thoughts, but rewrites their code, transforming them from a system-paralyzing virus into a useful program for immunity training. And Day 3, the visualization technique, is the step-by-step installation wizard. It doesn't just copy files, but addresses all your objections, ensuring the patch is installed correctly and starts working immediately. The core system is installed, but for its stable operation and high performance, the right drivers are necessary. Any operating system requires optimization. Day 4, hedonic adaptation, is a critically important system notification that reminds you: run updates regularly. Without the practice of negative visualization, the system will inevitably become cluttered with a cache of habituation over time and revert to factory settings, ceasing to appreciate what it has. Day 5, the dichotomy of control, is the most powerful system process, your personal task manager. Its function: to analyze all mental processes in real time and immediately force quit those that consume resources needlessly. Disabling 85% of these useless background anxieties frees up an amount of RAM equivalent to 4 to 5 hours of focused work per day. It's like adding an extra workday to your week. The system is installed and optimized. Now, let's configure its user interface and obtain the technical documentation. Day 6, practicing gratitude through loss, is the configuration of your perception's user interface. Instead of the default theme of scarcity and anxiety, Stoicism OS sets gratitude and value as the default theme. This changes how you see the world at a fundamental level. It's similar to breathing exercises. At first, you consciously take a deep breath, but after some time, deep, calm breathing becomes your automatic state of peace. Day 7, measurement and science, is your quality assurance. Measurement is a built-in monitoring system that shows you in numbers that the system is working, and the connection to CBT is the official technical documentation and certification, confirming that you have installed not a homemade utility, but reliable, time-tested software. You came here with an old, slow system that constantly issued errors. Now, you have a new one. One final question remains. After everything you've learned over these 7 days, what do you consider more dangerous for modern humans? Toxic positivity. The cultural mantra of good vibes only. The illusion that everything should always be good, and the guilt when it's not. or negativity. Not bad events themselves, but our total psychological fragility in the face of inevitable difficulties. Write just one word in the comments below, positive or negative. Your answer will show how your understanding of anxiety has changed. The Stoics gave their answer 2,000 years ago. The greatest harm comes not from reality, but from fleeing from it. And now you have everything you need to stop running.